Joining us from Circa News, John Solomon, Sara Carter. Sara, welcome back. We're glad to have you. All right, 600% increase, or what was it, from to 2013 to now? What is the justification? Do we have that much of an increase in terrorist activity that FISA and our national security agencies need to up their game that much?
No, not necessarily, Sean. I mean, if you just look at what the story that John put together and the data that he compiled, if you even go back to testimony last week that Director Comey gave, there's 2,000 terror investigations right now, he said, in the United States. Here you have an enormous amount of data being collected on Americans, almost like a backdoor intercepts into emails, metadata, as well as actual physical data of those conversations. And I think what John showed, and John, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but was an over 300% increase since 2013 in the collection of data on Americans.
Wow. All right. So, John, what you reported is beyond devastating. That is, from 2013 through 2016, the number of requests, NSA jumped, intercepted metadata jumped by, it tripled. It tripled. So either the terrorist threat in this country has gone up that significantly, or in an election year, our NSA, our intelligence communities were gathering information on political opponents to use against them and trampling on our Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. What is the more likely reason?
You know, I think people are going to have to dig deeper before we know the truth to that. But I will tell you something. You mentioned in your opening monologues about the number in 2015 of unmaskings. You said it was 654. That's what the Obama administration actually reported. It turns out it was underreported by a factor of more than 3. In 2015, there were 2,200 unmaskings. The Obama administration misreported it, and it's only recently that the Trump administration corrected that number. So unmaskings were much higher in 2015 and 2016 than we originally do.
John, this is an important question.
Yeah,
so it went from what to what?
Went from 650 to 2,200. That's a pretty big, large gap. Someone's not very good in math at the DNI.
So in other words, it's even worse than what you reported last week.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
All right, Sara, let's go through this very closely. This is so important, and I think Americans need to know. So, if the NSA, and by the way, I have great respect for our intelligence community. They do an important job. Their job is beyond risky. So their job is to make sure they're protecting our country. That would mean they have the right to surveil, let's say, a Russian ambassador, an Iranian ambassador. In the process of doing that, if an American is caught up in the conversation that they are surveilling, they have a process. It's called minimization. And they're supposed to minimize what they know about the American as long as that American is not involved in sabotage or some type of nefarious activities against America. They minimize that, but they also have a process, and Devin Nunes confirmed this, that they wouldn't identify the name of the American even if they knew who it was when they wrote up the report. Then they unmask these people, even though they're innocent Americans that never should have been surveilled in the first place. And we have this dramatic increase in numbers. What can this, if it's political surveillance on opponents, what would that mean in terms of scandal to this country?
It would be one of the biggest scandals this country has ever seen, if that's proven. And all you have to do is go back to 2011 when they loosened up these rules. John and I reported on this, and then we see an increase of this. We see slowly but surely increase of unmasking Americans and leaking of information. But what we don't know, Sean, yet is why. And that's why this investigation needs to continue, both for John and I, as well as for the Senate, and as well as for Congress, to continue to ask these questions. Susan Rice needs to answer these questions. Director Clapper, former Director Clapper, needs to answer these questions, as well as Director Brennan. We need to know what they were looking at and why. And if they were compiling dossiers on political opponents, that needs to be disclosed. That cannot be held under the shield of classified information.
And I've got to get to Rand Paul. John, I'll throw it to you. You said last week we may now know who these people are that were surveilled. I'll be joined in a second by Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Are we going to only see Trump supporters, Trump surrogates, Trump campaign, Trump transition, other Republicans in the House and Senate, and not Democrats? That would be a pretty good indication it's political, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, there are going to be more names in Congress, no doubt. We're certain of that based on our reporting. You know, questions like the other presidential candidates. How about Marco Rubio? How about Bernie Sanders? We'd like to know the answer to those questions. We don't have those answers yet, but Senator Paul raises an important question that I think is going to carry on for several weeks.
All right, guys, we're going to continue to follow this story all week long. Sara, thank you. By the way, welcome back from vacation. John, good to see you.